Hi everyone, how are you? In today's video, I'm gonna explain how to create a simple application to store the data locally inside the mobile application or inside the mobile phone and permanently. I mean, this data will stay still inside the mobile phone, even if you restart the application or restart the mobile or close the application. When we talk about the provider and we explain the counter application, you remember the counter was just we define a variable called counter and we assign the 0 to this variable. And whenever the user click on the button, this variable will increase by 1. That means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But this variable or the 0 assigned to this variable counter will store in the RAM, random access memory, in the memory inside the mobile. So when we close the application, everything will delete it from the memory. Then when we just reopen the application, restart the application, you can see the counter go back to the 0 because this variable just store in the memory temporarily. That means when restart the application, everything will delete from the memory. But now we want to store the data, the name or anything, permanently inside the mobile phone. Every mobile phone, Android, iOS, or anything, has an simple like an engine or a simple database. We can using just the API or SDK access this database engine or this database management and create the database and table inside it. So in today's video we can explain like this. We're gonna make application like this, simple application. Just we have a text view here. I can write the name or anything, and when you click add the data. For example, I click add, and then show note just navigate us to another screen, and you can see the note here. For example, I just type test, you can see it here. So add the SqFlite or SqFlite in pubspec.yaml. After that, just go to the library. The first thing I want to create an object Dart, and I want to create an object here called employee, for example, called AMP, for example, and enter. Now here just create a class. Inside it, I want just to add the data for employee, for example. So I have ID and name and age and so on. Now here, just for simplicity, I want to add just ID and the name. So here the string ID name, and I want to add because this object, I want to add the data in the object, so I want to add the constructor. So here AMP and optional constructor here, this dot ID and this dot name. Now I add the constructor. Now here, when I want to save the data or insert the data inside the database, convert the data to the map. When I want to save the data, I should convert it to the map because the SqFlite here accept the data as a map, like a JSON data, map like a JSON. We have key and value. So here I want to add toMap function, toMap. So here, whatever the data here, this data will be, I want to convert it to the map. So here, this return a map. Map of what? Of string, because say key and value. The key always string, and the value I don't know, maybe string, maybe integer. So just dynamic, that means anything. Sorry, string here. Now here, this data, I will see the data as object and convert it to the map. So here I can add, for example, here map equal the map of string, the key string, and dynamic. And here, when I see ID, I will convert it to what? To the ID of, or to the, I make it this ID. And when I see the name, just convert it to the name. Like this. And the semicolon. And here, just return what? Return the map. So here, this data in the employee will be an object and Flutter object. So I want to convert it to the map. So here I just return the map, the ID, the key and value. So key ID and value will be ID. Key name and the value will be name. And also here, when I insert the data in the database, when I save the data inside the database, when I want to retrieve the data from the database or fetching the data from the database, I want to reconvert it to the object. So here will be a map, because now I save the data as a map, right? So when I retrieve the data, will be as a map, and I want to convert it to the list of object, because I want to display the data in the application, the list view in application, for example. So I want to convert it to the object. So here I can add emp.to factory to object. I want to convert it to the object here, right? So here I want to convert what to the object? I want to convert the data. So the data will be a map, right? So it will be string dynamic and map, for example. You can name it anything, no problem here. But now here, because I save the data as a map, here string and dynamic, here I want to take the data here as a map and return and convert it to the object. So here I can say when cid, this id will be map of id. I want to extract the id from the map. Also here, same thing. Whenever we see the name, convert it to the map and extract the name from the map. Just like this. This will be take the employee, the data, the object as a map and convert it to the object. So now we complete this. Now I want to work with the database. So I will create another class called database or DB. Just right click, new, Dart, and just name it DB and enter. Or I want to add the data here, class. I add this class. So I want the database, I will create the database here. So here I have ID, just a string name equal name, because when we want to change anything, just change it from here, not work with the database directly. So here name, and also I add string. For example, for the table, I want to create a table. So the table name will be, for example, AMP or anything. And also I want to create a database string DB name, for example, equal employee, for example, .db .database. Also I want to add another thing here. I can add database from here. Call it, I can make a database DB. Here I cannot make a same name, so here I can make it helper, for example, because I cannot make it a same name. No problem. Now here I complete. Now I want to initial the database, so I can create initial DB. I want to create the database, to create a table inside the database here. So here, whenever I work with the database or API or Firebase, I need using the async, because we are using asynchronous programming. So here you have future data, and here async. And now the first thing I want to add a path. I have a path here. I import the path, right? So here from the path I have function called join. This function to join the path. Here I want to access the path of database. I said before we have a database engine, SqFlite inside the mobile. So I want to access I want to arrive or access the path of the database, so I can create my database inside it, right? So here I want to add a wait here, because this takes a time, and call it get database path. So it is just a built-in function to get a database path in my mobile application, any mobile. So I don't need to know where is the database path. So here just from this will access that database path. And then I want to add my database here. So now I have the database path, and after that I add my database in the path. So now the database, my database path in the mobile here, assigned to this variable path. Now I want to open the database, work with the database. So here I want to open the database. So here var, for example, db or anything, equal open database. Open database, take a variable. The first thing we have a path, the path of my database. this path, and then I have the version, for example, equal 1, and we have onCreate. onCreate take a function. This function have a database, so we have a database again, and we have a version, integer version. Now open and close, and semicolon to close everything. Now inside the onCreate here, I want to create a table inside the database. So here I have a database, I access the database, my database. So here database.execute. Now here SQL, just add SQL. So here create table, I want to create table. Everything is capital. Create table. My table name here, I create a table variable. So just this variable, $sign for variable because I have string here and variable. Create table, this name, and inside this table I have what? I want to add the ID, right? So here the ID, I have a column ID, the type of ID integer, and it is a primary key. Primary key, that means it is a unique key, it is number and unique key. And then also I have a name, I add the variable for name, and the type of name text, right? So here I add the database. I have the table inside the database. After that, I want to return a DB. Just open it here and close here. So return DB. Now initial DB is return the DB. That means I access the database and create a table inside the database, right? So now I complete. Now I want to using this initial DB, this database return from initial DB. I want to assign it to the DB here because I want to make it global. I want to using the DB everywhere in this class. So here I want to add a getter. So here it is return a future of what? Of database. Because this here database, a type of database, and it's a future, right? So I want to get using getter and call it, for example, DB and sync with asynchronous programming, take a time. And then I want to add DB, just assign this DB here to the, here await, take a time, to the initial DB. Now whenever I need to using the database here and this table, I just using the DB here. After that, I create the database, initial database, create the database, create a table inside the database. And now I want to insert the data inside the database, right? So I want to add a function called save, for example, or save data. And so here the user should add the data inside the database, right? Should add the data here, object here, and click add. So here before that, the data will be employee, the type of data employee, EMP, because ID and name. So employee, the type from the object here, employee, that I added before. And call it, for example, data or anything here. Also async, because take a time. When you work with the database, you should take a time. So here employee, I want to import the employee, just click on it and import it, right? Because I want to import the employee that I created before. And now the first thing I want to initial the data or the database, because this take a time here. I added this from database here. So the first thing I want to add the variable, for example, ins for insert, and then I want to await for database and DB. I want to initial the DB here. It is contain the initial DB. After that, I just say insert, dot insert, because I have database now, I have a table. I want to insert the data inside the table. So here insert, we have two parameters, the table and variable, right? So here the table is a table. My table here, I created a table before this variable. I want to insert the data where? Inside this table. And now I want to insert what? I want to insert the employee, right? So just here, data dot to map. I said before, when I create employee, I want to add the data employee, type employee, and then we have to map to convert the data to the map and insert to the database. So here just add to map from here. I have to map here. So convert the ID and name to the map, right? And then now this insert, if you just click on it, you can see it is return what? What's the type? Return future of integer. So here it is return future of integer because ID. Attach the data when we insert the record of data in the database. We'll attach it with the ID. We have ID primary key. So every data we insert, we have insert name. We attach to the ID 1. Insert name 2, 3, 4. Assign to the ID 2, 3, 4, and so on. So here, if I want to do that, I want to assign to the ID in my ID. So here, employee or the data here dot ID equal this, and because there's a future, so just await. So here the data should be integer, right? I define the ID as a string before in the employee, so I can just make it integer, not because ID always integer. So now integer. Now no problem. I insert the data, and then I can return here the data. Now I complete. I just initial the database and then insert the data, convert it to the map, and insert to the database, to the table in the database, and assign it to the ID. Now we have an ID 1, for example. We have Osama, the name. ID 2, we have another name, and so on. Now I complete the save data. Now I want to retrieve the data or return the data from the database. So here I can add, for example, get AMP. Also async. So the first thing I want to initial the database, same thing, and DB. So now here I initial the data, and you remember here when I insert the data or I save the data inside the database, here I convert it to the map, right? So now when I retrieve the data, will be a list of map, because I want to retrieve a lot of data, not just one. I want to retrieve a multiple data, multiple record by query all the data. So it is a list of map. So here just list of what? The type of list map, right? And I can name it maps, for example, and equal what? QU, the database dot query. In the query I have a table, return the data from this table, and I have columns, and I want to return everything inside the table. So I have ID and I have name, right? Just like this. That is a future. Just take a time, a query, work with database. So await here. Now I return the data as a map, right? After that, I want to convert the data to the object, to the list of object, not list of map. Why? Because I want to display the data in the list view. So here I want to add list of object, the employee, because I have ID and name. I have object employee, this object here, I mean. So here call it, for example, amps or anything, equal now initial with the empty blank. And then I want to make a loop, because here the maps will return what? Return a list of map. So I want to make a loop for integer I equal 0, and then I less than maps dot length, and then I plus plus. Just I want to make a loop from 0 until the whatever the length of map here. I don't know, maybe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, I don't know. So I make a loop around it and across it, and then here I want to insert the data inside employee, to add the data inside the employee. Employee just a list of employee, right? So just add here I had maps of I, right? Maps of I. But now maps of I will return the maps is contain what? A list of map. Map of I, that means we return the just one record from the map. That means just one map, right? So I want to convert the map to the object, because the list here employee, list of object employee. So here very easy, just say just employ this object dot to object, because I want to convert to object. I have a map and convert to object, right? So the map here just maps and I. Now the map will return the every single map in the list of map. Here it is a list of map. Here will after loop will make a loop. That means I will return every single of the map inside the list of map. So here I have the one map and convert it to the object. Here, from here, I add to object. Now I have a map and convert it to the object. Now complete, I just make a return of employee or AMPS, return of employee. Now I add the data, I initial the database, and I save the data and get the data, return the data. Now how to delete the data? Also very easy. The first same thing, I can add del amp, for example. Inside del amp, I have the ID, integer ID, because I cannot delete all the data. I want to delete a single record of data depending to the ID. For example, I want to add because the ID is unique. So if I delete the ID 2, that means Usama, for example, or ID 4, that means Ali, and so on. So here, it for DB, just initial database, and then here I can return del.delete. I want to delete from this table, right? The table. So I want to delete what? So here I can add where that mean I want to add where ID equal what? Where ID here in the database, I have an ID equal just like this question mark, and here the where arcs called where arcs, that means this question mark will be what? Will be the ID. That means whatever I add here, when I call the function, I want to add the ID here, so the ID will be this ID here. Sorry, the ID just like this. Complete here. Now I want just to close the database. After complete, I can add a function to close the database. So here I can add the close, call the close, for example. Now I complete. Now here go to the main function, main class, just a stateful widget here. I add a stateful widget and nothing inside it. So here this contain like this, just we have a text and add and show notes. When I click in the text, I want to save the data. When I click on the save, and when I go to the add in the show notes, I want to go navigator to the show notes. Show notes also I create another one, nothing inside it, just a scaffold. So here I want to add the data first thing, right? So the first thing I want to go here, we have a name of the text because I want to data in the text. I want to initial a var for DB. Initial state, that means when my application, when this widget will initial work, will start working, I want to do something here. I want just to initial the database here. So here just DB. Now DB helper, like that means this. So now I initial the DB helper, and I have getter here to using the database. I have the getter, so I can using easily the database from here. Now here I have the text. We have a name inside text, you know that. Now here the save, the add here. When I click the button here, add, I want to save the data inside the database. So here just very easy now. I have DB because for initial the DB, and then inside the DB I have a save data. Here save data, I want just to call this function. So inside the save data here you can see we should have employee of data, right? Employee, the object, this employee here. So just here inside it I want to add the employee emp. Inside employee I want to add the name and ID. ID will be auto increment to auto add the ID, because here when I said assign this to the ID, so I don't need to add the ID because automatically will add. So here I will just want to add inside it, I want to add the name equal name. The name from where? Sorry, name.text. Name equal name.text, that means this name here. Name the text editor, text editing controller, and this assigned to the text field here. So it is a name for the text. Whatever I write here, and when I click add, will save inside the database. So here I add save data, and inside it I add employee. So here this function employee, now it is a name from the text, and just add it to the database, convert to the map and add it to the database. So here I think it is very easy. Now after I add the data, I want to delete everything. So name.text equal like this. That means delete everything. When I click button, delete the name. For example, I write Osama. When I click, I will delete it here. For example, I add here Osama. When I click add, Osama will delete. Like this. Now I complete. Now I want to go to the show notes. Nothing inside it here. I want to add a future builder, because you know here this employee explained the future builder before. So here it is. I want to add get employee. It is as asynchronous programming. It is a future data, right? So I want to add a future builder to build this here. It is a list. Return a list of employee. So here future builder. In the future builder, I have builder. The first thing I have a future. Future is what? So I want to add data from database. So here, same thing. I want to add the var db and then initial data inside the database. So here I can add same thing, db equal db helper. So now I can add it. The db dot like this here, get amp. So I can add it here, get amp like this. And then I have builder. I want to get the data from database here and build a widget depending on this data. I explained that before. So just now we have builder. The builder will be a context and snapshot. That means this data that come from the future. So I can add here if snapshot dot data null. I want just to add a circular progress indicator. You know that. And now, if it is not null, I want to return something. I want to return a list view because I want to add the data inside list view dot builder. Also explained that before. List view dot builder. I have the item count, how many data I have. This depends of the snapshot, right? So just a snapshot dot data dot length. And I want to build the data. So the builder or item builder, I want to build a widget. So builder, same thing. I have context and I have index. Now return a widget. So list style, I want to add a list style, for example, will be like this. So the list style, I have just a title. I have title equal text, and I want to add my data in the text. Inside text, we have a data snapshot dot data, and I have index because it's a list dot name. For example, I just want the name here, and also I want like this here. You can see if you go to the show note, I want to add like icon to delete the data. So here I can add the like a trailing here and call it the icon button. Sorry, here icon equal icon because this widget should be a widget, and then icons dot delete. Now here I want to add the db dot delete. This function here I want to call it for delete. Sorry, till amp, and then I should have id here. So just here till amp. Inside it I want to add an id. So the id from snapshot dot data and then index dot id. Here just add the return because it should return a widget. Return circular avatar, circular progress controller. Now I complete. Just here after delete the data here on a press, you can see I can make it like this. After id I want to set a state. I want to refresh the data. So again get the data from the database. So get amp again because I want to refresh the data after delete something from the data. I want to fetch it in the list view. So now I complete. Now I just run application. So now if I add the name here, for example, and just add, you can see deleted. And when I go to the show data, just here I should check if the db here, if it is not null. So here if it is not null, sorry, I forget that, because it's null now, for example, and then it is return. I should return the db. Now I can using the db here. So here just check that it is null or not. Also there is no data, sorry, because here you can see db, and here I don't return the db again. Return db, I should return it. This is very important because I cannot work with this db without return it, right? So now again I will try. Of course here show note I can make it in the center, because you can see it's not in the center. Wrap with the center. Now it is in the center again. Now if I try to add the data, anything, add, and then show notes. Now you can see the data here. If I try to add another thing, example, Sama, and then add and show notes. Now you can see FD and Osama.